Yes, now work?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, my presentation, I call it Global Perspectives on Climate Change Education, what the literature review says. Okay, so introduction, first we need to accept that it's happening when climate change. I think so all the people know that around the world have people who don't believe in climate change. Other people believe, but they don't take seriously this problem and this crisis. So have like kind of reduction, yeah. And to speak about climate change, we need to understand that is one problem, yeah, that have consensus, that have dissensions associated with the different sociopolitical and conceptual positions. Such situation analysis will be complemented by systematic analysis of research literatures in the areas of environmental education, science education, and education, trying to get one map of climate change experience and related concepts. So what is climate change? According to Jose Marengo, global climate models project for the future, even with some degree of uncertainty, possible change in climate extremes, such as heavy waves, cold waves, heavy rains and floods, droughts, and more intense or frequent tropicals and extratropical hurricanes and cyclones. So each place is having different kind of impact of the phenomena. For example, in Colombia, in 2020, November, for first time, one island was impacted by one hurricane. Colombia is close to North America, to Mexico, and after go up USA. So this area normally have hurricane, but Colombia never was impacted. So this was the first time. How never was impacted, don't have infrastructure, don't have any kind of strategies. Yeah. So now the society need to try to check which can be these climate strengths that can impact each local. So the articulation of measures against the effects of climate change has rising points as in 92 at the Conference of the Parties, like COP, where more than 186 states discussed environmental initiative and goals for the parties to exercise in their territories. Despite this articulation, it is visible that even with measures and laws, gas emission rates increase. So how many countries that are agree to reduce the emissions, but in the practice, they continue having a higher emission rates. Other ones was in one moment of the history in the agree, but after go out. So this always is like kind of problematic. But what's why a literature review? According to Noronha and Ferreira, when performing, it provides an overview or an approach to the state of the fire on education for climate change. In this way, we can not only identify elements of work done, but also recognize gaps and plan new proposals to develop in relation to the object of a study. So for example, all the people who are here that maybe want to help for the fight of climate change, when knowing the gaps, can propose new things, can participate with new projects. Reviewing means looking again, summarize the discourses of the other researchers, but not only in the sense of visualizing, but of criticizing too. So which is the objective? To identify which are the main themes present in the discourses that have circulated in social educational practice in the last 10 years about climate change, in the period of time of 2010, 2010 and 2020. So for the methodology, I used the words climate change education, climate change and education separately, and climate and education.
were established as descriptors, including the titles, limiting the resource around 10 years of the date of publication, 2010 start. So why always have the education? Because had many research that are just associated to the climate, or since the biology perspective, or since geography perspective. So I am interested in education. The search was performed in 3 languages, in Portuguese, Spanish, and English. In the start, I wanted to do in Portuguese and in Spanish, but the results was very few in reality, so I started doing English too. The search engines used was Redirect, Cielo, that is for Spanish and Portuguese system, and Taylor and Francis for English. And the manual review of the articles was carried out, checking the semantic context of inclusion of the descriptors and areas of knowledge. What do we disclose? When I did the research, appeared many documents, but not just papers. So I have book review, editorials, thesis summary, commented articles, medical providers. So this one I didn't count in the study. This was were excluded. What we have found so far, yes, this is the preliminary results. So articles by time, the number. What is the influence in which area are writing, the location geospatially, and contribution by region. So articles by time, we see that they are increasing, but it's no one higher increasing. So the blue is the Spanish, the orange is the Portuguese, and the line is the English. So we can see that don't have one production like systematic through the time. Have periods of time, for example, in 2018 was super few production. So, and we can realize the period of time about what is happening socially. No, we have the movements, the social movements about with Greta, and after that maybe we can say increase a little, but in reality we forbid one problem that are speaking since many times if you production in the area. Yes, the journal who have more papers about climate change education is the Environmental Education Research. After is the Journal of Geoscience Education, and the International Research in Environmental Education. So is in reality, this is few for the kind of the problem that we have. Yeah. So about locating geospatially, identifying the climate change as a global problem or global environmental crisis does not mean that this treatment and educational level is generalized. We cannot say that one strategy you say in Pakistan, you say in India, it can be the same or can be worked the same, because it's very important to know the context, to work according with the context, with the necessity of the people, to the vulnerability of the people. Yeah, climate change, yes, it's a problem that will impact all the social class, will impact, but the vulnerable people will have higher impact, will be faster. Yep. Where was the most production of this paper? USA with 39%, after Brazil with 7%, and Canada, Australia, Singapore, and Mexico with 6%, and after UK with 5%. So by regions, the Americans have a greater representation with the participation of the 8 countries out of 34. Yes, America is not just United States. So here I am speaking America about all one continent, that is North America, Central America, and South America. Yep. So I want to clarify that. So
the 8 countries that I found is the representation of the 23%. So I found Brazil, Canada, Costa Rica, Cuba, Mexico, Peru, Puerto Rico, and United States. In Europe, with 9 countries out of 46, that equivalent at the 19%. Germany, Spain, Denmark, UK, Sweden, Finland, Belgium, Netherlands, and Ireland. Asia with the 30%, having 6 countries out of 44. Singapore, Philippines, Malaysia, China, Turkey, and Lebanon. Oceania with Australia, 7%, so it's 1 country of 14. And Africa with South Africa, that is less than 2%, 1 country of 53. So this is the graphica. So the higher production is USA, after Brazil, after Australia, Mexico, Canada, Singapore, UK, Spain, Turkey, Finland, how I say in the start. And according to Carida Meira, in Machinian View, the most developed countries invest the most in managing and improving the environment, and the poor are the less able to do so. Forgetting that many environmental issues are produced of the large multinationals that reach developing countries and generate environmental crimes in them. So it's kind of incoherence, because United States normally they don't participate too much on the reduction of the emission, but if we go to see the work in the educational level, they are producing more than the other countries. On the other hand, the influence of the political and economic interest in the area of science and technology, as well as education, enters the discussion. Since non-finding publications don't necessarily mean that they are an educational and investigative process. Yes, I want to recognize that if maybe are no publication in international journals, don't mean that don't have local work about climate change. Yes, coherence or inconsistencies of the 7 countries with the highest amount of the publication on climate change education. 4 are countries that are on the list of top greenhouse gas emitters, such as United States, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. But according to CRIPA, United States have increased its emission levels of CO2, the greenhouses, by 4.5% more than the 90s. And emerging economies like China have 3.7 more emissions in 2018. And the difference between European Union countries that have reduced their emission by 21.6% in 2018, in addition to 11 other countries with more than 1% of the total share emission of CO2, with a decrease of 2.3% Mexico, 1.3% Brazil, and 0.1% Canada. The difference of Turkey, which have increased. So we have some countries that are decreasing, but have other countries that are increasing the emission. What we found about contribution by region so far. So we elucidated that the intention is not to generate a single talk or a generation of knowledge about climate change or education for climate change. By opposite, we have several theses that guide a dialogue as requirement of teaching climate change. So just as no one teacher has all the knowledge, we can say that no single country has the total knowledge or is better than another. So because United States had more, for example, publication, that means that his knowledge is better than the other countries. Recognizing ignorance or different levels of knowledge production opens the way to knowing, and take the practice of openness to the other as an object of critical reflection. So according to Freire is an economist in Brazil. The ecological, social, and economic contour of an educator is fundamental because this material conditions the understanding of the world itself. Their ability to learn to respond to challenge. So what we found in Americas, Brazil, in educational terms worldwide, has been characterized by having a critical perspective inherited from Paulo Freire. And on the other hand, there is a toll of critical environmental education, which characterized by search for social transformation. So for example, I don't will say happy environmental day. I can say is in the environmental day, we need to continue to fight for the environment, for all this kind of crisis. Yeah. So that is part of one critical perspective. The theoretical perspective, for example, since in the Brazil, they are saying that is something that is coming from the developed countries, which is the challenge in the Brazilian context, is a complexity of the context to incorporate the climate change education. They do one kind of problematization of the relationship with the research, thesis review, systematization of concepts, review for interdisciplinary search and approach of the climate change. They are interested in the teacher's perspective and analysis of a speech on the covers of the IPCC reports. Mexico, for example, are interested in the training strategies, Costa Rica in the participate strategies for environmental education, Puerto Rico in the heightened curriculum, Cuba in the adaptation of the strategies, Peru in document analysis, Canada, the paper so far, they were doing review on how the country has been committed to the climate change education at the public policy level, and have one work about the contribution of work with mathematics to teach. United States, they are interested in conceptions and conceptual errors and incorporation and curricular level that I think so is in comparison with Latin America, they are advanced in that because they have the curriculum for that. They assume climate change like controversial issue, are checking too how the non-formal context like the zoo, the aquariums, and the public dialogue can contribute about climate change. Teacher training, strategy used by teacher, technological tools, interdisciplinary proposals, and they are doing literature review too. In Europe, I found few for Finnish. In Spain, they are interested, for example, in social representation of students. Germany, the paper was about the impact of the botanical garden for the construction of the climate change knowledge. Sweden and UK, they were checking, studying how children can identify climate change as socio-scientific theme. UK, so is proposing an educational resource to encourage learning, inquiring about life experience in the country. Ireland identified the conception of teachers and experts. Finland identify attitudes and concessions, but they are proposing a model too. Netherlands developed virtual tools for teaching climate change. And in 2019, appears more one article with more critical perspective in the analysis of the eco-political context. In Africa, I found a paper of South Africa that have been interested in the influence of the geography professors in the students. In Asia, Lebanon, they are reviewing, for example, educational proposal in NGOs. China identify attitudes of the students, perceptions, and Philippines teacher conception. So many are interested in teachers' conception. And Singapore, like Turkey, they are in the teacher conceptions. Singapore policy, and Malaysia is more in the educational experience. And Oceania, they have interested in case study in the curricular level, use of fictions to teach, and response by social science degrees studies about climate change. So this was one preliminary, and so after what I will do, one descriptive analysis with one theoretical focus and results.
with one methodological approach, empirical and empirical, with content analysis. So that implies semantic coding, definition of climate change, definition, for example, what they are understanding by climate change in comparison with the official language, and maybe do a search in French too. I invite her, if you are interested, to get contact, my email. I have the podcast Environment and Everyday Life. They are in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. And thank you.